Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine, right here in the city of Memphis. It's in the county of state of Tennessee. And today's date is Sunday afternoon, August the 25th, 2024. The time is 12 a.m. 12 p.m. And thank you for all my family, my support, for your continued courage, support, continue to keep myself employed in Memphis. Tri-State area, continue to further my education in Monroe College Online, continue to pursue my social research, be an administrative contract mark. I took a break from going to school, but in the future I'm gonna go back to school. First I'm gonna earn my social degree and as well as other degrees. Like I said, it's 12 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Now I'm gonna start my Facebook Live. Hello, everybody. My name is Eric D. Johnson, also on BrightShine. I live right here in the city of Memphis, in the county of state of Tennessee. And today's date is Sunday afternoon, 12:01 p.m. August the 25th, 2024. And first, I'm gonna say thank you to my family, my support, for your continued courage, support, and continue to keep myself employed in the Memphis Tri-State area, continue to further my education, Monroe College Online, continue to pursue my social research, be an administrative contract mark. At the present time, I took a break and going to school. In the future, I'm gonna go back to school, and I'm gonna earn my social degree as well as other degrees. Now, like I said, today is Sunday afternoon, August the 25th, 2024. Is Sunday afternoon, 12:02 p.m. So, start today's video. The names of God in the Old Testament. Elohim, and also the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh. Jehovah, Shalom. Jehovah, Shammah. El Shaddai, Lord God Almighty. El Roy, Jehovah Sabaoth, our shepherd. Jehovah Nissi, El Shaddai, El Jehovah Siddiqenu, El Elyon, Jehovah Ra, the Lord my shepherd. Alpha and Omega, Adonai, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Jireh, El Elyon, El Olam, Jehovah Ra, Jehovah Mikodishkim, and mighty God. Again, those are names of God in the Old Testament of the Holy Bible. Holy Bible. Names of God in the Old Testament. Now let me click over to the names of God in the New Testament. Elohim, Jehovah Shammah, El Elyon, the God Most High. Alpha and Omega, Jehovah Roy, God the Shepherd. Emmanuel, Holy One. Adonai, Jehovah Rapha, Jehovah Sabaoth, and the Tetragrammaton, Yahweh. Chief Shepherd, Jesus, Mighty God, Jehovah, El Shaddai, El, Jehovah, Siddiqenu, Abba, God, El Olam, the Lord who sanctifies and shepherd. That's John 10:11. So those are the names of God in the New Testament. Again, the Holy Bible. Now I'm going to click over here to BibleStudyTools.com, the Holy Bible, Bible versions. Bible version and translation, like you have best known translations like the Holman Christian Standard Bible, the English Standard Version, the King James Version, which I have, the New American Standard Bible, New International Version. Then you have the New King James Version of the Holy Bible, New Living Translation, New Revised Standard Bible. You have other translations, modern, like the Bible based in English, Common English Bible, the Complete Jewish Bible, Good News Translation, Hebrew Names Version, Jubilee Bible 2000, New International Readers Version, the Orthodox Jewish Bible, Third Millennium Bible, and so on and so forth. What's that? Young's Literal Translation, World English Bible. You have older translations of the Holy Bible, American Standard Version, the Darby Translation, Dewey Reams Catholic Bible, Revised Standard Version, Tyndale Bible, the Latin Vulgate Bible, the Webster Bible, the Wycliffe Bible. Then you have New Testament only. You have Spanish, Portuguese, French, German, Italian, Dutch, Chinese versions of the Holy Bible. And so all right, let me click back over. All right, now we have the Bible verse of the day coming from the book of Isaiah, the 6th chapter, 3rd verse, and it reads, "And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory." And again, that's the Bible verse of the day, BibleStudyTools.com. Like I said, Bible verse of the day, and it's coming from the book of Isaiah in the Old Testament, the 6th chapter, 3rd verse. And also coming from, we're still on BibleStudyTools.com. Today's Bible reading. First, you have the book of John, 6th chapter, verses 60 through 71. Also, you have First Chronicles, verses 25 through 26, and also the book of Zechariah, the 11th chapter. And so again, we're on BibleStudyTools.com. That was today's Bible reading. I think it's on the New International Version. Yeah, I see it now. New International Version. That's where it's coming from. The New International Version of the Holy Bible. So I'm going to click over here to BibleGateway.com. Now, read the Bible, available versions of the Holy Bible. The language and the versions of the Holy Bible. Starting from A to Z, like from A, Amharic. I think it's the New Amharic Standard Version of the Holy Bible. Arabic Bibles, Arabic Bible, easy to read version. Kitab El Hayat Bible, and so on and so forth. A Wadi Bible. They also have a Pivatar Bible. That's a New Indian Bible version. Then you have all the Bulgarian versions of the Bible. And so on and so on. And there's a Native American that I can recognize when I see Cherokee. But it's a Cherokee New Testament Bible. And Czechoslovakian Bibles, Welsh Bible, Danish, German, and then of course English Bibles. There are I'm scrolling. So there are a lot of English Bibles, Spanish Bibles. It's a lot. Persian Bible, the Farsi New Testament Bible, Finnish Bible, French Bibles, Greek Bibles. Then you have Hebrew Bibles, Gujarati Bibles, and the Hindi Bible, Croatian Bible, Haitian Creole Bible, Hungarian Bibles, Hawaii Bibles, Icelandic Bibles, Italian Bibles, Japanese Bibles, Chakatik, where it's an Oriental Bible, Kelchi Bible, Korean Bible, Latin Bible, Luganda Bible, a Maori Bible, Macedonian Bible, Mam Bible, and then Mam Central Bible, and then Mam Todo Santos Bible, Low German Bible, Nepali Bible, Dutch Netherlands Bible, Norwegian Bible, Chichewa Bible, Oriya Bible, West Central Oromo Bible, Punjabi Bible, Polish Bibles, Papia Bible, Portuguese Bibles, Quichua, Kachi Bibles, Romanian Bibles, Russian Bibles, Slavic Bibles, Somali Bible, Albanian Bible, Serbian Bible, Swedish Bible, Swahili Bible, Tamil Bible, Thai Bible, Tagalog Bibles, Twi Bibles, Ukrainian Bibles, Urdu Bible, Vietnamese Bible, Yoruba Bible, Chinese Bibles. So the Holy Bible is being translated in as many languages as it can be translated all over the world. Old Testament and New Testament versions of the Holy Bible. And so it's important that I do these things. See, when you see the Holy Bible being translated, you're talking about Old Testament, starting with Judaism in the Old Testament. See, the Dead Sea Scroll, discovery of the Dead Sea Scroll, mainly the Old Testament. And then they do use all this modern day dating processes, and it's been dated all the way back before the first century. It's just the Dead Sea Scroll is just that old. It's before the first century. It goes all the way back. And when it comes to the New Testament, New Testament is really just, it's mainly the first century. Of course, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. You're talking about the historical Jesus, so the translation, anything they find in the ground talking about the New Testament gospel, your common sense gonna tell you can't go. Prophecies, of course, are in the Old Testament, but we talking about the New Testament now, first century, the historical Jesus. So it's gonna be first century. Anything you talking about the New Testament, your common sense gonna tell you it's got to be first century and beyond, because you're talking about the historical Jesus, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and then the book of Acts, and so on and so forth. Now, let me get over here to this tetragrammaton. Now, we on Wikipedia, just like we online. The PhD. We online. The World Wide Web. The PhD at colleges and universities all over the world. The World Wide Web. The computer. The World Wide Web. The PhD. Now, being on the World Wide Web and being on Wikipedia, of course, you got all this other stuff. Like Jewish Encyclopedia, Christianity.com, Dictionary.com, Merriam-Webster.com, so on and so forth. So like I said, we on Wikipedia. Let me scroll down to the references and so on, footnotes and all that. All right, we got scroll back up. See also, okay, references, notes, citations. That's important. They're very important. Citations, you can, footnotes and citations. You cannot overlook any citations or footnotes, as well as references. Do not overlook citations and footnotes. Because sometimes on Wikipedia, sometimes it might say, look, we need a citation for this or that. Or sometimes the citation not available, and so on and so forth. Do not overlook citations. And don't overlook the footnotes in the references. Okay, sources. All right. All right, tetragrammaton is the four-letter Hebrew theonym, transliterated as capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, or capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H, the name of God in the Hebrew Bible. The four letters written and read from right to left in Hebrew are Y-O-D-H, H-E-W-A-W, and H-E. The name may be derived from a verb that means to be, to exist, to cause, to become, or to come to pass. While there is no consensus about the structure and etymology of the name, the form Yahweh or Yahweh is now accepted almost universally among biblical and Semitic linguistic scholars. Though the vocalization Jehovah continues to have wide use. The books of the Torah and the rest of the Hebrew Bible, except Esther, Ecclesiastes, and with a possible instance of, in verse 8:6, the Song of Songs contains this Hebrew name. Observant Jews and those who follow Talmudic Jewish tradition do not pronounce, nor do they read aloud proposed transcription forms such as Yahweh or Jehovah. Instead, they replace it with a different term, whether in addressing or referring to the God of Israel. Now, for emphasis' sake, read that again. Observant Jews and those who follow Talmudic Jewish tradition do not pronounce, nor do they read aloud proposed transcription forms such as Yahweh or Jehovah. Instead, they replace it with a different term, whether in addressing or referring to the God of Israel. Common substitutes in Hebrew are Adonai, literally translated my lords, pluralis, majestatis, taken as singular, or Elohim, literally gods, but treated as singular when meaning God in prayer, or Hashim, the name in everyday speech. Now we got these four letters. Now, when you come to this etymology, the Hebrew Bible explains it by the formula. I don't speak Hebrew. Translated, he translated, I am that I am. The name of God revealed to Moses in Exodus chapter 3, verse 14. This would frame capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H as a derivation from the Hebrew triconsonantal root to be, become, come to pass, with the third person masculine Y prefix equivalent to English he in place of the first person, thereby avoiding translation as he who causes to exist, he who is, etc. Although this would elicit the form capital Y, capital H, capital Y, capital H, not capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H. To rectify this, some scholars propose that the tetragrammaton represents a substitution of the medial Y for W and occasionally attested practice in biblical Hebrew, as both letters function as metrics lectionis. Others propose that the tetragrammaton derived instead from the triconsonantal root to be constitute with the final form, eliciting similar translations as those derived from HYH. As such, the consensus among modern scholars considers that Y, capital H, capital Y, capital W, and capital H represents a verbal form, with the Y representing the third masculine verbal prefix of the verb HYH to be, as indicated in the Hebrew Bible. Now, when it comes to the vocalization, capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H in Hebrew script. Like all letters in the Hebrew script, the letters in capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H originally indicated consonants. In unpointed biblical Hebrew, most vowels are not written, but some are indicated ambiguously as certain letters came to a secondary function, indicating vowels, similar to the Latin use of I and V to indicate either the consonants J, W, or the vowels IU. Hebrew letters used to indicate vowels are known as or matrix lectionis, mothers of reading. Therefore, it can be difficult to deduce how a word is pronounced from its spelling, and each of the four letters in the tetragrammaton can individually serve as a meter lectionis. Several centuries later, between the 5th through the 10th century Common Era, the original consonantal text of the Hebrew Bible was provided with vowel marks by the Masoretes to assist reading. In place of where the word to be read, the kiri, different from the indicated by the consonants of the written text, the ketiv. They wrote the kiri in the margin as a note showing what was to be read. In such a case, the vowel marks of the kiri were written on the ketiv. For a few frequent words, the marginal note was omitted. These are called kiri perpetuum. One of the frequent cases was the tetragrammaton, which according to later rabbinic Jewish practice should not be pronounced, but read as Adonai, translated my lords, pluralis majestatis, taken as singular. Or if the previous or next word already was Adonai, as Elohim, God. Writing the vowel diacritics of these two words on the consonants, capital Y, capital H, capital V, capital H, produces, and respectively, ghost words that would spell Yehovah and Yehovah, respectively. The oldest complete or nearly complete manuscripts of the Masoretic text with Tiberian vocalizations, such as the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, both of the 10th or 11th century, mostly write Yahweh with no pointing on the first H. It could be because the O diacritic point plays no useful role in distinguishing between Adonai and Elohim, and so is redundant. Or it could point to the kiri being, which is Aramaic for the name. Now, Yahweh, see also Yahweh and Yehovah. The scholarly consensus is that the original pronunciation of the tetragrammaton was Yahweh. R. Reno agrees that when in the late first millennium, Jewish scholars inserted indications of vowels into the Hebrew Bible, they signaled that what was pronounced was Adonai, Lord. Non-Jews later combined the vowels of Adonai with the consonants of the tetragrammaton and invented the name Jehovah. Paul June and Takamitsu Maraka state the Cree is the Lord, whilst the Ketiv is probably, according to ancient witnesses, and they add note 1 in our translations, we have used Yahweh, a form widely accepted by scholars instead of the traditional Jehovah. In 1869, Smith's Bible Dictionary, a collaborative work of noted scholars of the time, declared, whatever, therefore, be the true pronunciation of the word, there can be little doubt that it is not Jehovah. Mark P. Arnold remarks that certain conclusions drawn from the pronunciation of as Yahweh would be valid even if the scholarly consensus were not correct. Thomas Romer holds that the original pronunciation of capital Y and small hwh was Yahoo or Yehu. Max Riesel, in the mysterious name of capital Y, capital H, capital W, capital H, said that the vocalization of the tetragrammaton must originally have been Yahuwah or Yahuwah. The element Yahweh is found in Amorite personal names, Yahweh, Dagon, commonly denoted as the semantic equivalent of the Akkadian. The latter refers to one existence which, in the context of deities, can also refer to one's eternal existence, which aligns with Bible verses such as Exodus 3:15 and views that can mean I am the existing one. It also explains the ease of Israelites applying the olam of everlasting epithet from El to Yahweh. But J. Philip Hyatt believes it is more likely that Yahweh or Yahweh refers to a God creating and sustaining the life of a newborn child rather than the universe. This conception of God was more popular among ancient Near Easterners, but eventually the Israelites removed the association of Yahweh to any human ancestor and combined it with other elements. Okay, so Yahweh Saba. Okay, Halil bin Sassoon states that there is insufficient evidence for Amorites using Yahweh to refer to a god, but he argues that it mirrors other theophoric names and that Yahweh, or more accurately Yahweh, derived from the root, which means he will be. Now, the adoption at the time of the Protestant Reformation of Jehovah in place of the traditional Lord, in some new translation vernacular or Latin of the biblical tetragrammaton, stirred up dispute about its correctness. In 1711, Adrian Reeland published a book containing the text of the 17th century writings. 5 attacking and 5 defending it. As critical of the use of Jehovah, it incorporated writings by Johannes van der Dendries, 1550-1616, known as Drusius. Sixtinus, 1593-1629, Louis Capel, 1585-1658, Johannes Buxtorf, 1564-1629, and Jacob Atling, 1618-1679. Defending Jehovah were writings by Nicholas Fuller, 1557-1626, and Thomas Gattiker, 1574-1654, and 3 essays by Johann Lusden, 1624-1699. The opponents of Jehovah said that the tetragrammaton should be pronounced as Adonai, and in general do not speculate on what may have been the original pronunciation, although mention is made of the fact that some held that Javi was that pronunciation. Almost 2 centuries after the 17th century works reprinted by Reeland, 19th century Wilhelm Gesenius reported in his Thesaurus Philologicus on the main reasoning of those who argued either for or Yahweh as the original pronunciation of the tetragrammaton, as opposed to Jehovah. He explicitly cited the 17th century writers mentioned by Reeland as supporters of, as well as implicitly citing Johann David Michaelis, 1717-1791, and Johann Friedrich von Meyer, 1772-1849, the latter of whom, Johann Heinrich Kurtz, described as the last of those who have maintained with great pertinacity that was the correct and original pointing. Edward Robertson's translation of a work by Gesenius gives Gesenius' personal view as my own view coincides with that of those who regard this name as anciently pronounced Yahweh, like the Samaritan. Well, okay. Well, as you can see, this whole thing about the Tetragrammaton, just read it. There was some differences of opinion. And it started around with this Protestant Reformation nonsense. One thing don't never forget about the Protestant Reformation now. One thing don't never forget: bigotry, prejudice, and racism. Don't never forget organized crime. Don't never forget organized crime. Because when you see the Protestant Reformation, exactly what is you trying to prove? The Catholic Church was still in existence. So what was it that you're trying to prove about indulgence? Just one little point, indulgence. Martin Luther gonna bring up indulgence. Just one single little point, and that supposed to mean that you know what you're talking about. But as you can see, when Martin Luther went to the Diet of Worms, he got put in his place. He got put in his place. See, that's what bigotry and prejudice and racism mean. Organized crime. See, the Catholic Church ain't just about indulgence. You can't take no one little thing and call yourself gonna branch off. We're gonna branch off. All that is bigotry, prejudice, racism, organized crime. That's all it is. Because you ain't standing on nothing. Because when you went to the Diet of Worms, you ain't standing on nothing. See, you can't stand on a lie. That's the reason why he went on the run. And being on the run, you're a criminal. But he couldn't come to the Diet of Worms and talk about what he was talking about. See, that's what I say about just like here we are in modern times, and you have a college and you have a university. You have the theology department, theology and religious studies department. Every daggum kind of belief or faith is being talked about in the theology and religious studies department. Even the philosophy department, which is what the philosophy department is like. You got to go outside. You got to go back outside them double doors and over there around. Over there in what they call it, the liberal arts department. Over there in the department, on the campus. You got go back out them double doors and down over there in the liberal arts department, philosophy. But still, they still talking about the same stuff that the philosophy class, what you talking about in theology and religious study, it's still being talked about. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. See, it's still been, and really, nobody's really saying that they got all the answers or, we can believe and we have faith. Judaism, Catholic Church, gonna stand on there, but, and, you don't see nobody just saying, look, man, I'm finna just shut this whole thing down because, it's gonna always be these issues where people just gonna challenge arguing, but see, they arguing in the right, in the proper, and nobody's getting killed and all this kind of stuff. But people, you want to talk about what you believe and what you have faith in on the college campus. That's the proper format. Now, anti-gang, anti-Gnostic, and anti-Hazy also, and versus heresies, translated mean against heresies. Now, Saint Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyons, together with Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch, wrote a 5-volume book refuting Gnosticism, proving that Gnosticism was a heresy. Also, Saint Athanasius, the Bishop of Alexandria, in the year 367 AD, in his 39th festal letter, Easter letter, banned all non-Christian writing. Saint Athanasius, Bishop of Alexandria, together with all the other bishops in the Catholic Church, they went around and collected all that Gnostic theologian writing, and they destroyed it. Now, some of that Gnostic theologian writing didn't get destroyed. That's what they talking about, these different codexes, such as the Askew Codex, the Bruce Codex, and the Berlin Codex. And then you got that Nagamon Library, which they didn't, it got discovered in 1945. The little farm boy was outside playing and found the Nagamon Library. Gave it to his father, who was a farmer. And, when they found out about the discovery, it was all kind of rumors and things. Scholars at college and universities around the world, they were inquiring about it. And one of the scholars, a Frenchman named Mr. Doris, he started asking about it and everything. But the people who discovered it, they really just handed over. They still had it in their possession. This is in the mid 1940s. And nobody had it in their possession. At the time, the Egyptian government, there was a lot of turmoil, political turmoil in Egypt at the time. And then in the 50s, scholars were still inquiring about it, and they was trying to come over. And eventually, the Egyptian government, the Department of Antiquities, they eventually got the Nagamon Library and put it in their museum. But the college and university didn't have no possession of it, and some of the scholars did. They kept continuing to come over and inquire about this Nagamon Library, trying to get possession of it. One man actually died trying to get possession of Mr. John. And then in the 60s, UNESCO, as you know, UNESCO, they commissioned Mr. Robinson to get a group of scholars together and to translate the Nagamon Library. This in the 60s. And then, after that, after the translations and things, this nation, then all the way up into the 1980s, the college and university didn't even have a facsimile. They still didn't have it in their possession. And so, it took time for this Nagamon Library. But also, St. Epiphanius of Salome, the Bishop of Cyprus, wrote a 3-volume book titled Panarium. It's translated in Greek, and Panarium in Latin. It means bread basket. And that the scholars at the college and university around the world, they also said that St. Epiphanius of Salome, Bishop of Cyprus, 3-volume book is also in versus heresies, against heresies. And speaking about against heresies, as you know, Hippolytus He had wrote a book also. Let me just mention that right quick. As you know, Hippolytus of Rome, around 170 to 230, was that 235 AD. Of course, as you know, he was a bishop of Rome and one of the most important second, third century Christian theologians. And that one of the biggest things that he wrote was the refutation of all heresies. And in his allow both pagan beliefs and 33 Gnostic Christian systems deemed heretical by Hippolytus, making it a major source of information on contemporary opponents of Christian orthodoxy as understood today. Now it's saying, let me see. And so, like I said, the book itself is divided into 10 books, 8 of which have survived more or less intact. Books 2 and 3, however, have not been unearthed, and their contents remain the subject of conjecture. So, book 1. But that's what so that's continuing where I left off. is that refutation of all heresies, Hippolytus of Rome. And so, all right. The Almighty, conservative, vice lord, four corner hustle. The Almighty, black, Princeton. The Almighty, Mickey, Coverstone, Cracker. The Almighty, black, disciple, Potter. The Almighty Bluefin, black disciple, the black disciple. Lord, Stone, disciple. Gangster disciple killer, GDK. Glazed donut killer, GDK. 7-11, G killer, Goofy. See, that's how you know when you're doing what's right. When you think about what you see today. You see how that gangster disciple sitting up in Chicago. See, that's the reason why it's important to do what you do. What I'm doing today is when you expose these stupid people for trying to go around, trying to go behind other people back with narcissism. And see, that's what they were saying. This even the scholars been saying all the time, that the criminals, they took the heresiology, just like we just got through talking about, a versus Irenaeus. Saint Irenaeus, the Bishop of Lyons, together with Saint Ignatius, the Bishop of Antioch. The 5-volume book they wrote, that's the heresiology they talking about. And also, even Saint Epiphanes of Samuel, the Bishop of Cyprus, his 3-volume book. See, this is what the criminals did. They took the information and went around people who really saw. A lot of people, see, we had to think back years ago. People that have the internet and libraries and things, dispersing information. Remember they were talking about Martin Luther and the Gutenberg press? The invention of the Gutenberg press so they can print information out. So people go around talking to other people. You know, the secret societies and things of this nature. That's how people pass information on. A lot of people just talk to other people and communicate. And so they took the heresiology and distorted it. Even Hippolytus of Rome took his book, Refutation of All Heresies. That what the scholars were talking about, the heresiology. They took that information and distorted it because they were refuting the Gnostics as well as these other heresies. Refuted it. They went around and lied to other people. That's what the gangster disciples did. See, when you talk about the Lord Stone disciples, the dirty sheets and the weird sheep, starting the imperial chaplains in the 14th Street Clovers. And then behind that, you had the vice lords coming into existence. And then people branching out from the imperial chaplains, like the Egyptian cobras. Then you had all this fighting. Then Edwin Pepperlo Perry and the other little guys that was in at the reformist school with him. Then they all got out of jail. And they went around and got rid of all them social clubs. You know, with vice lord, conservative vice lord. But see, and then you had the Black Prince Stones, Jeff Fort, and this, what's his name, Eugene Harrison. After all that fighting they done, then they came together. The Black Peace Stone. Then, on the south side of Chicago, the Disciples. Then, the Black Disciples. The Devil Disciples. Then, out of nowhere, then you got this little peon guy. This Larry Hoover. The Supreme Gangsters. But see, when you stupid, like him and the rest of them are, when you stupid and uninformed, don't try that dualism. Don't try that dualism and cosmotic with me. Don't try that with me. No more. Cause I'm not uninformed. See, that's the reason why I do the things I do. That's the reason why I keep making my video. See, you get to the root of the problem. See, you can't stand on a lie. You can't stand on a lie. Because that's all you've been doing, lying. That's all you've been doing, lying. Dualism don't make you important. See, that's the reason why over the college and university all around the world, you had a theology and religious studies department. And then you got to go back out them double doors and then down around. You got to go around to the liberal arts department, the philosophy class around there. You know what I'm saying? Because they'll be talking about cosmology, the metaphysics and you know, ontology. They'll be talking about ontology and you know, but See, that's what all that. See, when you stupid, see, you fall for stuff like that. You stupid. And see, another thing about Chicago, see, and about this Black Panther Party and all this. See, a lot of that stuff was around during that period of time. But that's how they try to get people to be influenced in a negative way with the gang. And then here it is, you talking about the Crip gang and the Blood gang. See, when you stupid and uninformed, you just stupid. See, you go around listening to people out on the street, they don't do nothing to make a fool out you. They read why you going around trying to be gay and trying to be lesbian, trying to be bisexual and trying to be pansexual, man, you know, and trying to be transgender, transsexual, you know. See, that where it's coming from. And then we're getting into this syncretism, being syncretic. Oh, we're going to get into it. See, every time I make my video, we're constantly going, exposing the lies. Exposing the lies. want to make sure, continue to make sure the Lord stone disciple. See, you don't walk your butt around talking about no dualism and cosmology and then think you smart. Only thing you trying to show me that you really stupid. Oh, we finna get into it though. We finna get on this. Let me go over here to Judaism. The foundation. You gotta have a foundation on monotheism. Now let me click back over right quick. I want to make sure. All right. Okay. Now the reason why I was clicking because when you be online, you're down at the bottom of Google, of course, you got different. You can click 1, 2, and 3, and so you got all these answers that come up when you're looking for something. We on Wikipedia, but you have Britannica. We on the Jewish Principles of Faith. So what time is it? Okay, yeah. We're going to establish a foundation on monotheism, Jewish principles of faith. Like I said, we're on Wikipedia, so let me scroll down to the bottom. All right, references. All right, references. Further reading. Always remember, don't forget citations and footnotes and things of this nature. All these references down at the bottom. Very important. Because the big library here in the city of Memphis is on Poplar Avenue, the main library. So if I want to continue my reading on Jewish principles of faith, I can scroll down to the further reading, to those references, and I can go over to the main library here in the city of Memphis on Poplar Avenue. All right, Jewish principles of faith. Judaism does not centralize authority in any single individual or group. The formulation of principles of faith that are universally recognized by all branches of Judaism remains undefined. There is no central authority in Judaism in existence today, although the Sanhedrin, the supreme Jewish religious court, would fulfill this role if it were reestablished. Instead, Judaism principle of faith remains debated by the rabbis based on their understanding of the sacred writings, laws, and traditions, which collectively shape its theological and ethical framework. The most accepted version in extent is the opinion of Maimonides. And Maimonides from 1138 to 1204, commonly known as Maimonides and also referred to by the Hebrew acronym Rambam, was a Sephardic rabbi and philosopher who became one of the most prolific and influential Torah scholars of the Middle Ages. All right. Judaism affirms the existence and uniqueness of God and stresses performance of deeds or commandments alongside adherence to a strict belief system, in contrast to religions such as Christianity, which demand a more explicit identification with God. Faith in Judaism requires one to honor God through adherence to God's instructions, Torah, and the practice of all other mitzvah. All right, we're going to keep on reading. Orthodox Judaism stresses a number of core principles in this educational program. Most importantly, a belief that there is one single, omniscient, transcendent, non-compound God who created the universe and continues to be concerned with its governance. Traditional Judaism maintains that God established a covenant with the Jewish people at Mount Sinai and revealed his laws and 613 commandments to them in the form of the written and oral Torah. In Rabbinic Judaism, the Torah consists of both the written Torah, Pentateuch, and the tradition of oral law, much of it later codified in sacred writings, see Mishnah and Talmud. Traditionally, the practice of Judaism has been devoted to the study of Torah and observance of its laws and commandments. In normative Judaism, the Torah, and hence Jewish law itself, is unchanging, but interpretation of law more open. It is considered a mitzvah, commandment to study and understand the law. The proper counterpart for the general English term faith, as occurring in the expression principle of faith, would be the concept of emunah. In Judaism, the word amen comes from this word and means I trust, believe, while it is generally translated as faith or trust in God. The concept of emunah can more accurately be described as an innate conviction, a perception of truth that transcends reason. Emunah can be enhanced through wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and learning of sacred Jewish writings, but emunah is not simply based on reason, nor can it be understood as the opposite of or standing in contrast to reason. There are a number of basic principles that were formulated by medieval rabbinic authorities. These are put forth as fundamental underpinnings inherent in the acceptance and practice of Judaism. Conception of God. Monotheism. Judaism is based on a strict monotheism and a belief in one single, indivisible, non-compound God. The Shema Yisrael, one of the most important Jewish prayers, encapsulates the monotheistic nature of Judaism. Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God. The Lord is one. Judaism emphatically rejects any concept of plurality with respect to God, explicitly rejecting polytheism, dualism, and Trinitarianism, which are incompatible with monotheism as Judaism understands it. The unity of God is stated many times in Jewish tradition. It is the second of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith. Maimonides wrote that this God is one, not two or more than two, but one, whose unity is different from all other unities that there are. He is not one as a genus, which contains many species, is one, nor is he one as a body containing parts and dimensions, is one, but his is a unity, than which there is no other anywhere. Yad, Yesodi, Ha, Torah, 1-2. In Jewish tradition, dualistic and Trinitarian conceptions of God generally referred to as Shituf, partnership, meaning incorrect but not idolatrous view. God is the creator of the universe. Most Jews believe that God is creator of the universe. Different sets of Jews view this in different ways. For example, some ultra-Orthodox groups reject the concept of evolution and believe the earth to be only a few thousand years old. Other groups of Orthodox and non-Orthodox Jews do not believe in a literal interpretation of the Genesis creation narrative, and according to that view, Judaism is not in contradiction to the specific model, to the scientific model that states that the age of the universe is around 13.77 billion years old. Norbert M. Samuelson writes, the question of dating the universe has never been a problem of Jewish philosophy, ultimately because their philosophy has never taken the literal meaning of the Bible to be its revealed true meaning. While a general Jewish attitude has been that God created the world, ex nihilo, Rabbi Mark the Angel writes that historically there has been a general reluctance in Jewish tradition to speculate on the metaphysical aspects of creation. Now, and the important statement for Judaism is that God did in fact create the world, and evolutionary process that did not simply happen by itself, but was set into motion by God. When the Bible speaks of God creating the world in 6 days, it may be speaking figuratively. The word yom, day, in the creation story can hardly be proved to be referring to a day of 24 hours. After all, the sun itself was not created until the 4th day. So it is impossible to argue that the first 3 days were days as we know them. A more appropriate way to understand the creation story is that God created the universe in 6 stages, and each of these stages may have taken millions of years or 24 hours or instants. In short, Judaism insists that God created the world, that he created it in stages, and that he continues to maintain the universe which he created. The specific details of the creation process are not central to Jewish thought. Moses Maimonides, 12th century, wrote that by virtue of the existence of the Creator, everything exists, and that time itself is part of creation, and therefore, when God is described as existing before the creation of the universe, the notion of the time should not be understood in its normal sense. The 15th century Jewish philosopher Joseph Albo argued similarly in his Ikarim that there are 2 types of time: measured time, which depends on motion, and time in the abstract, the second of which has no origin and is the infinite space of time before the universe was created. Albo argued that although it is difficult to conceive of God existing in such a duration, it is likewise difficult to imagine God outside space. Other Jewish writers have come to different conclusions, such as 13th century scholar Beya ben Asher, 16th century scholar Moses Amos Nino, and the 18th century Hasidic teacher Naaman al-Batzler, who expressed their views similar to that expressed by the Christian Neoplatonic writer Boethius, that God lives in the eternal present and transcends or is above all time. Now, the nature of God. The Jewish view that God is eternal, with neither beginning nor end. A principle stated in a number of biblical passages. The rabbis taught a quite literal, down-to-earth view of the eternalness of God, that God is eternal, but is not given to man to explore the full meaning of this idea, and so one cannot therefore expect to find in the rabbinic literature anything like a detailed examination of what is meant by divine eternity. A famous Mishnah statement on attempts to pierce the veil is this: whoever reflects on 4 things, it were better for him that he had not come into the world, what is above, what is beneath, what is before, and what is after. The traditional Jewish view is that God is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnibenevolent. Various Jewish thinkers, however, have proposed a finite God, sometimes in response to the problem of evil, and ideas about free will. Louis Jacobs writes that modern Jewish thinkers such as Levi Olin, echoing some classical Jewish writers such as the 14th century Talmudists, Gersonides, have thought of God as limited by his own nature, so that while he is infinite in some respects, he is finite in others, referencing the idea present in classical sources that there is a primal, formless material coexistent with God from all eternity, upon which God has to work, and that God only knows the future in a general sense, but not how individual men will exercise their choice. On the topic of omniscience and free will, Jacobs writes that in the medieval period, 3 views were put forth. Maimonides, who wrote that God had foreknowledge and man is free. Gersonides, who wrote that man is free and consequently God does not have complete knowledge. And Hasidai Crescus, who write in or Adonai that God has complete foreknowledge and consequently man is not really free. Several Jewish writers have dealt with this issue of theodicy, whether and how God is all powerful and all good. Given the existence of evil in the world, particularly the Holocaust, John D. Levinson argues that omnipotence doctrine fails to give due regard to the formidability and resilience of the forces counteracting creation, such as the primordial state of chaos existing before creation, and leads to a neglect of the role of humanity in forming and stating the world order. Hans Jonas proposed a tentative myth that God chose in the beginning to give God's self over to the chance and risk and endless variety of becoming, entering into the adventure of space in time. Jonas expressed the view that God does not create the world by fiat, although God does create the world, but leads it by beckoning it into novel possibilities of becoming. Jonas, who was influenced by the Holocaust experience, believed that God is omnipresent, but not in all respect, non-temporal, impassible, immutable, and unqualified omnipotent. Most of classical Judaism views God as a personal God. Rabbi Samuel S. Cohen wrote that God, as conceived by Judaism, is not only the first cause, the creator power, and the world reason, but also the living and loving Father of men. He is not only cosmic, but also personal. Jewish monotheism thinks of God in terms of definite character or personality, while pantheism is content with a view of God as impersonal. This is shown in the Jewish liturgy, such as in the Adon Olam hymn, which includes a confident affirmation that He is my God, my living God, who hears and answers. Elva Kiesler writes that Hebrew Bible portrays an encounter with a God who cares passionately and who addresses humanity in the quiet moments of its existence. British Chief Rabbi Jonathan Sacks suggests that God is not distant in time or detached, but passionately engaged and present. The predicate, personal, as applied to God, does not mean that God is corporeal or anthropomorphic, views which Judaism has always rejected. Rather, personality refers not to physicality, but to inner essence, physical, rational, and moral. Although most Jews believe that God can be experienced, it is understood that God cannot be understood because God is utterly unlike humankind, as shown in God's response to Moses when Moses asked for God's name. I am that I am. All anthropomorphic statements about God are understood as linguistic metaphors. Otherwise, it would be impossible to talk about God at all. Although the dominant strain in Judaism is that God is personal, there is an alternate stream of tradition exemplified by Maimonides, who, along with several other Jewish philosophers, rejected the idea of a personal God. This reflected his belief in negative theology that God can only be described by what God is not. Rabbi Mordecai Kaplan, who developed Reconstructionist Judaism and taught at the Conservative Jewish Theological Seminary of America, also rejected the idea of a personal God. Kaplan instead thought of God as a force like gravity built into the very structure of the universe, believing that since the universe is constructed to enable us to gain personal happiness and communal solidarity when we act morally, it follows that there is a moral force in the universe. This force is what the constructionists mean by God. Although some reconstructionists do believe in a personal God, according to Joseph Delushkin and Morris N. Kertzer, Kaplan's nationalist rejection of the traditional Jewish understanding of God exerted a powerful influence on many conservative and reformed rabbis, influencing many to stop believing in a personal God. According to the Pew Forum on Religion in Public Life 2008 U.S. Religious Landscape Survey, Americans who identify as Jewish by religion are twice as likely to favor ideas of God as an impersonal force over the idea that God is a person with whom people can have a relationship. Soul devotion to the Creator. Within Judaism, the essence of worship is deeply rooted in the belief of monotheism, emphasizing the exclusive devotion to the Creator. This principle dictates that worship and reverence should be directed solely towards God, as articulated by Maimonides' fifth principle of faith. According to this belief, no entity aside from the Creator is deemed worthy of worship. Revelation, Scripture. The Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, is the Jewish scriptural canon and central source of Jewish law. The word is an acronym formed from the initial Hebrew letters of the three traditional subdivisions of the Tanakh, the Torah, teaching, also known as the 5 books of Moses, or Pentateuch, the Nevi'im, prophets, and the Ketuvim, writings. The Tanakh contains 24 books in all. Its authoritative version is the Masoretic text. Traditionally, the text of the Tanakh was said to have been finalized at the Council of Jamnia in 70 CE, although this is uncertain. In Judaism, the term Torah refers not only to the 5 books of Moses, but also to all of the Jewish scripts, the whole of Tanakh, and the ethical and moral instructions of the rabbis, the oral Torah. In addition to the Tanakh, there are 2 further textual traditions in Judaism: Mishnah, tractates expounding on Jewish law, and the Talmud, commentary of Mishnah and Torah. These are both codifications and redactions of the Jewish oral tradition and major works in rabbinic Judaism. The Talmud consists of the Babylonian Talmud, produced in Babylon around 600 CE, and the Jerusalem Talmud, produced in the land of Israel circa 400 CE. The Babylonian Talmud is the more extensive of the two and is considered the more important. The Talmud is a representation of the Torah, though through sustained analysis and argument, with unfolding dialogue and contention between rabbinic sages. The Talmud consists of the Mishnah, a legal code, and the Gemara, Aramaic for learning, and analysis and commentary to that code. Rabbi Adin Stensaltz writes that if the Bible is the cornerstone of Judaism, then the Talmud is the central pillar. No other work has had its comparable influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life, shaping influence on the theory and practice of Jewish life, and states, the Talmud is the repository of 1,000 years of Jewish wisdom and the oral law, which is as ancient and significant as the written law. The Torah finds expression therein. It is a conglomerate of law, legend, and philosophy, a blend of unique logic and shrewd pragmatism, of history and science, anecdotes and humor. Although its main objective is to interpret and comment on a book of law, it is simultaneously a work of art that goes beyond legislation and its practical application. And although the Talmud is, to this day, the primary source of Jewish law, it cannot be cited as an authority for purposes of ruling. Though based on the principle of tradition and the transmission of authority from generation to generation, it is unparalleled in its eagerness to question and re-examine convention and accepted views and to root out underlying cause. The Talmudic method of discussion and demonstration tries to approximate mathematical precision, but without having recourse to mathematical or logical symbols. The Talmud is the embodiment of the great concept of mitzvah Talmud Torah, the positive religious duty of studying Torah, of acquiring learning and wisdom, studying which is its own end and reward. Moses and the Torah. Orthodox and conservative Jews hold that the prophecy of Moses is held to be true. He is held to be the chief of all prophets, even of those who came before and after him. This belief was expressed by Maimonides, who wrote that Moses was superior to all prophets. Whether they preceded him or arose after Moses attained the highest possible human level, he perceived God to a degree surpassing every human that ever existed. God spoke to all other prophets through an intermediary. Moses alone did not need this. This is what the Torah means when God said, mouth to mouth, I will speak to him. The great Jewish philosopher Philo understands this type of prophecy to be an extraordinarily high level of philosophical understanding which had been reached by Moses and which enabled him to write the Torah through his own rational deduction of natural law. Maimonides described a similar concept of prophecy. Since a voice that did not originate from a body cannot exist, the understanding of Moses was based on his lofty philosophical understanding. However, this does not imply that the text of the Torah should be understood literally. as according to charism. Rabbinic tradition maintained that God conveyed not only the words of the Torah, but the meaning of the Torah. God gave rules as to how the laws were to be understood and implemented, and these were passed down as an oral tradition. This oral law was passed down from generation to generation, and ultimately written down almost 2,000 years later in the Mishnah and the two Talmuds. For Reformed Jews, the prophecy of Moses was not the highest degree of prophecy. Rather, it was the first in a long chain of progressive revelation in which mankind gradually began to understand the will of God better and better. As such, they maintain that the laws of Moses are no longer binding, and in today's generation they must assess what God wants of them. This principle is also rejected by most Reconstructionist Jews, but for a different reason. Most posit that God is not a being with a will. Thus, they maintain that no will can be revealed. The origin of the Torah. The Torah is composed of 5 books called in English Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. They chronicle the history of the Hebrews and also contain the commandments that Jews are to follow. Rabbinic Judaism holds that the Torah extant today is the same one that was given to Moses by God on Mount Sinai. Maimonides explained, we do not know exactly how the Torah was transmitted to Moses, but when it was transmitted, Moses merely wrote it down like a secretary taking dictation. Thus, every verse in the Torah is equally holy, as they all originate from God and are all part of God's Torah, which is perfect, holy, and true. Haredi Jews generally believe that the Torah today is no different from what was received from God to Moses, with only the most minor of scribal errors. Many other Orthodox Jews suggest that over the millennia, some scribal errors have crept into the Torah's text. They note that the Masoretes, 7th to 10th century, compared all known Torah variations in order to create a definitive text. However, even according to this position, that the scrolls that Jews possess today are not letter perfect. The Torah scrolls are certain the word perfect text reception that was divinely revealed to Moses. Indeed, the general consensus of Orthodox rabbinic authority possesses this belief in the word perfect nature of the Torah scroll as a defining feature of Orthodox Judaism. Although even in modern Orthodox circles, there are some rabbis, Professor Mark Shapiro, that point out the numerous rabbinic sources from the Talmudic, post-Talmudic, and medieval ages that claim that there were some changes to the text, which include whole verses that were made deliberately during the Messianic era and even during the times of the First Temple. Professor Shapiro lists the many medieval rabbis discuss changes and additions that occurred during the time of Ezra the scribe in his work, The Limits of Orthodox Theology, Maimonides' 13 Principles, reappraised. Prophecy. Jews believe that the Almighty created times choose to prophesy, meaning such occurrences are described in the Nevi'im. The books of the prophets, however, since the destruction of the First Temple, prophecy has ceased. The oral Torah. Orthodox Jews view the written and oral Torah as the same as Moses taught for all practical purposes. Conservative Jews tend to believe that much of the oral law is divinely inspired, while Reform and Reconstructed Jews tend to view all of the oral law as an entirely human creation. Traditionally, the Reform movement held that Jews were obliged to obey the ethical but not the ritual commandments of Scripture. Although today many Reformed Jews have adopted many traditional ritual practices, Karate Jews traditionally consider the written Torah to be authoritative. Viewing the oral law as only one possible interpretation of the written Torah, most modern Orthodox Jews will agree that while certain laws within the oral law were given to Moses, most of the Talmudic laws were derived organically by the rabbis of the Messianic and Talmudic eras. God's relationship with men. Judaism focuses more on how God defines men than one trying to define God. There is therefore a focus on what people are expected to be or do far more than on spelling out theological beliefs. People are born with both a tendency to do good and to do evil. Jewish tradition mostly emphasizes free will, and most Jewish thinkers reject determinism, on the basis that free will and the exercise of free choice have been considered a precondition of moral life. Moral indeterminacy seems to be assumed both by the Bible, which bids man to choose between good and evil, and by the rabbis, who hold the decision for following the good inclination rather than the evil rests with every individual. Maimonides asserted the compatibility of free will with foreknowledge of God. Only a handful of Jewish thinkers have expressed deterministic views. This group includes the medieval Jewish philosopher Hasdai Crescus, in the 19th century Hasidic rabbi Mordecai Yosef Leiner of Izbeka. All is necessary for God because he is perfect, but for mankind all is possible by virtue of choice. The two types of view are true with knowing about the prophet, who is in endeavor with God to be wise and to perform miracles for him. Judaism affirms that people are born with both a Yetzer Hatov, an inclination or impulse to do good, and with a Yetzer Hara, an inclination or impulse to do evil. These phrases reflect the concept that within each person there are opposing natures continually in conflict, and are referenced many times in the rabbinic tradition. The rabbis even recognize a positive value to the Yetzer Hara. Without the Yetzer Hara, there will be no civilization or other fruits of human labor. Midrash states, without the evil inclination, no one would father a child, build a house, or make a career. The implication that Yetzer Hatov and Yetzer Hara are best understood not only as moral categories of good and evil, but as the inherent conflict within man between selfless and selfish orientation. Judaism recognizes two classes of sin: offenses against other people and offenses against God. Offense against God may be understood as violation of a contract, the covenant between God and the children of Israel. Once a person has sinned, there are various means by which they may obtain atonement. Judaism rejects the belief in original sin. Both ancient and modern Judaism teaches that every person is responsible for his own actions. The existence of some innate sinfulness on each human being was discussed in both biblical, Genesis 8:21, Psalm 51:5, and post-biblical sources. However, in biblical verses, this is brought as an argument for divine mercy, as humans cannot be blamed for the nature they were created with. Some apocryphal and pseudepigraphic sources express pessimism about human nature. A grain of evil seed was sown in Adam's heart from the beginning. And the Talmud, Avodah Zarah, has an unusual passage which Elwa Kiesler described as the serpent seduced Eve in paradise and impregnated her with spiritual, physical dirt, which was inherited through the generations. But the revelation at Sinai and the reception of the Torah cleansed Israel. Kiesler states that although it is clear that belief in some form of original sin did exist in Judaism, it did not become mainstream teaching nor dogmatically fixed, but remained at the margins of Judaism. Reward and punishment. The mainstream Jewish view is that God will reward those who observe his commandments and punish those who intend to transgress them. Examples of rewards and punishment are described throughout the Bible and throughout classical rabbinic literature. The common understanding of this principle is accepted by most Orthodox and conservative and many Reformed Jews. It is generally rejected by the Reconstructionists. See also free will and theology. Judaism. The Bible contains reference to Sheol, literary gloom, as the common destination of the dead, which may be compared with the Hades or underworld of ancient religions. In latter tradition, this is interpreted either as hell or as a literary expression for death or the grave in general. According to Agadic passages in the Talmud, God judging who has followed his commandments and who does not, and to what extent. Those who do not pass the test go to a purifying place, sometimes referred to as Gehinnom, but more analogous to the Christian purgatory to learn their lesson. There is, however, for the most part, no eternal damnation. The vast majority of souls only go to that reforming place for a limited amount of time, less than 1 year. Certain categories are spoken of as having no part in the world to come, but this appears to mean annihilation rather than an eternity of torment. Philosophical rationalists such as Maimonides believe that God did not actually mete out rewards and punishments as such. In this view, these were beliefs that were necessary for the masses to believe in order to maintain a structured society and to encourage the observance of Judaism. However, once one learned Torah properly, one could then learn the higher truth. In this view, the nature of the reward is that if a person perfected his intellect to the highest degree, then the part of his intellect that connected to God, the active intellect, would be immortalized and enjoy the glory of the present for all eternity. The punishment would simply be that this would not happen. No part of one's intellect would be immortalized with God. See divine providence in Jewish thought. The Kabbalah, mystical tradition in Judaism, contains further elaboration, though some Jews do not consider these authoritative. For example, it admits the possibility of reincarnation, which is generally rejected by non-mystical Jewish theologians and philosophers. It also believes in a triple soul, of which the lowest level, nephesh or animal life, dissolves into the element. The middle layer, ruach or intellect, goes to Gan Eden, paradise, while the highest level, neshama or spirit, seeks union with God. Some Jews consider tikkun olam, or repairing the world, as a fundamental motivating factor in Jewish ethics. Therefore, the concept of life after death in the Jewish view is not encouraged as the motivating factor in performance of Judaism. Indeed, it is held that one can attain closeness to God even in this world through moral and spiritual perfection. Now, Israel, chosen for a purpose. God chose the Jewish people to be a unique covenant with God. The description of this covenant is the Torah itself. God further declared in the Torah through prophecies to Moses that his firstborn is the Israelites. However, closeness and being chosen does not imply exclusivity, as anyone can join and convert. Included in the idea of being chosen is that Jews were chosen for a specific mission, a duty, to be a light unto the nations, and to have a covenant with God as described in the Torah. Rabbi Lord Emmanuel Jacobovitz, former chief rabbi of the United Synagogue of Great Britain, described the mainstream Jewish view on this issue. Yes, I do believe that the chosen people concept is affirmed by Judaism in its holy writ, its prayers, and its millennial tradition. In fact, I believe that every people, and indeed in a more limited way, every individual is chosen or destined for some distinct purpose in advancing the designs of providence. Only some fulfill their mission and others do not. Maybe the Greeks were chosen for their unique contributions to art and philosophy, the Romans for their pioneering services in law and government, the British for bringing parliamentary rule into the world, and the Americans for piloting democracy in a pluralistic society. The Jews were chosen by God to be peculiar unto me as the pioneers of religion and morality that was and is their national purpose. The Messiah. Judaism acknowledges an afterlife, but does not have a single or systemic way of thinking about the afterlife. Judaism places its overwhelming stress on Olam Hazi, this world, rather than Olam Haba, the world to come. And speculations about the world to come are peripheral to mainstream Judaism. In Pirkei Avot, Ethics of the Fathers, it is said that 1 hour of penitence and good deeds in this world is better than all the life of the world to come. But 1 hour of spiritual repose in the world to come is better than all the life of this world, reflecting both a view of the significance of life on earth and the spiritual repose granted to the righteous in the next world. Jews reject the idea that Jesus of Nazareth was the Messiah and agree that the Messiah has not yet come. Throughout Jewish history, there have been a number of Jewish Messiah claimants considered false by Jews, including most notably Simon Bar Kokhba and Sabbatai Zevi, whose followers were known as Sabbateans. The 12 of Maimonides' 13 principles of faith was, I believe with perfect faith in the coming of the Messiah, Mashiach, and though he may tarry, still I await him every day. Orthodox Jews believe that a future Jewish Messiah, the Mashiach, anointed one, will be a king who will rule the Jewish people independently and according to Jewish law. In the traditional view, the Messiah was understood to be a human descendant of King David, that is, of the Davidic line. Liberal or Reformed Judaism does not believe in the arrival of a personal Messiah who will gather the exiles in the land of Israel and cause the physical resurrection of the dead. Rather, Reformed Jews focus on a future age in which there is a perfect world of Judaism, a perfect world of justice. Excuse me. I don't know what I'm talking. Let me read that again. Reformed Jews focus on a future age in which there is a perfected world of justice and mercy. Now, okay, now that's good. Now we got a foundation on monotheism. Got a foundation. Got a foundation on monotheism, Judaism. Now, let's get over to this dualism and cosmology. Now, let me do this. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to click over here. Going to go to Wikipedia. And we're going to also go to the Encyclopedia Britannica on this dualism and cosmology. Because there were some things that when I was looking at Encyclopedia Britannica, they was talking about some little more things that I want to add into that wasn't included in the Wikipedia. So let's go to Wikipedia. Now, so like I said, we're going to be referring to the Encyclopedia Britannica on this dualism and cosmology. All right. Well, we're gonna get us started in what time is it? Okay. Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're not gonna leave out mind body dualism. Oh no, we ain't gonna leave that. And we're gonna also get to this syncretism. While we over here on Wikipedia, we go. All right, we on Wikipedia, so we ain't leaving syncretism out. Syncretism out. Absolutely not. Now we over on Wikipedia, so let me scroll down. Scroll down to the bottom. All right, we got some All right, see also, and we got footnotes down at the bottom. Footnotes, bibliography, external links. All right, we on Wikipedia. Dualism and cosmology. Do not forget them citations. Do not forget them footnotes and them references. It's very important because there's a library on Poplar Avenue. We talking about dualism and cosmology. You want to go to the library? You want to run your mouth? We going to the library. All right. Dualism in cosmology. Or dualistic cosmology is the moral or spiritual belief that two fundamental concepts exist which often oppose each other. It is an umbrella term that covers the diversity of views from various religions, including both traditional religion and scriptural religion. Moral dualism is the belief of the great complement of or conflict between the benevolent and the malevolent. It simply implies that there are two moral opposites at work, independent of any interpretation of what might be moral and independent of how these may be represented. Moral opposites might, for example, exist in a worldview that has one God, more than one God, or none. By contrast, duotheism, bitheism, make sure you open your ears now. You want to run off at the mountain. Want to be out in the trenches, running off at the mountain. And ditheism implies at least two gods, while bitheism implies harmony. Ditheism implies rivalry and opposition, such as between good and evil, or light and dark, or summer and winter. For example, a ditheistic system could be one in which one God is a creator and the other is a destroyer. In theology, dualism can also refer to the relationship between the deity and creation, or the deity and the universe. That form of dualism is a belief shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. Alternatively, in ontological dualism, the world is divided into two overarching categories. Within Chinese culture and philosophy, the opposition and combination of the universe's two basic principles are expressed as yin and yang, and are traditionally foundational doctrines of Taoism, Confucianism, and some Chinese Buddhist schools. Now, we have many myths and creation motives with dualistic cosmology have been described in ethnographic and anthropological literature. The motives conceive the world as being created, organized, or influenced by two demiurges. Now, when you say that, you talking about in Platonic and Neo-Pythagorean, Middle Platonic and Neoplatonic schools of philosophy. And let me make sure you open your ears. The demiurge is the artisan-like figure responsible for fashioning and maintaining the physical universe. The physical universe. Every time you talk about that demiurge, don't you never forget, you talking about this physical universe. Cultural heroes or other mythological beings who compete with each other or have a complementary function in creating, arranging, or influencing the world. There is a huge diversity of such cosmologies, in some cases such as among the Chukchi. Now, the Chukchi, they are Siberian ethnic group native to the Chukchi Peninsula, the shores of the Chukchi Sea and the Bering Sea region of the Arctic Ocean, all within modern Russia. All right. The beings collaborate rather than compete, and they contribute to the creation in a co-equal way. In many other instances, the two beings are not of the same importance or power. Sometimes one of them is even categorized as gullible. Sometimes they can be contrasted as good versus evil. They may be often believed to be twins or at least brothers. Dualistic motives in mythologies can be observed in all inhabited continents. Zolotarjov conclude that they cannot be explained by diffusion or borrowing, but are rather a convergent origin. They are related to a dualistic organization of society. In some cultures, the social organization may have ceased to exist, but mythology preserved the memory in more and more disguised ways. All right. Now let me click over here to dualism over here on Britannica, and we're gonna get to the beginning up here. All right. We're gonna do some reading. Now, like I said, we done clicked over to Britannica. We just got through reading on some of the Wikipedia, so I'm gonna click over to Britannica. Encyclopedia Britannica on dualism in cosmology. Dualism in religion. The doctrine that the world or reality consists of two basic opposed and irreducible principles that account for all that exists and has played an important role in the history of thought and of religion, the nature and significance. In religion, dualism means the belief in two supreme opposed powers or gods, or sets of divine or demonic beings that cause the world to exist. It may conveniently be contrasted with monism, which sees the world as consisting of one principle such as mind, spirit, or matter. With monotheism, or with various pluralisms, and polytheism, which sees a multiplicity of principles or powers at work. As is indicated below, however, the situation is not always clear and simple, a matter of one or two or many, for there are monotheistic, monistic, and polytheistic religions with dualistic aspects. Various distinctions may be discerned in the types of dualism in general. In the first place, dualism may be either absolute or relative. In a radical or absolute dualism, the two principles are held to exist from eternity. For example, in the Iranian dualism, Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, both the bright and beneficent and the sinister and destructive principle are from eternity. In a mitigated or relative dualism, one of the two principles may be derived from or presuppose the other as a basis. For example, the Bogomils, a medieval heretical Christian group, held that the devil is a fallen angel who came from God and was the creator of the human body, into which he managed by trickery to have God infuse a soul. Here the devil is a subordinate being and not co-eternal with God, the absolute eternal being. This then is clearly a qualified, not a radical dualism. Both radical and mitigated types of dualism are found among different groups of the late medieval Cathari, a Christian heretical movement closely related to the Bogomils. Another and perhaps more important distinction is that between dialectical and eschatological dualism. Dialectical dualism involves an eternal dialectic or tension of two opposed principles, such as in Western culture, the one and the many, or idea and matter or space, called by Plato the receptacle, and in Indian culture, Maya, the illusory world of sense experience and multiplicity, and Atman, Brahman, the essential identity of self and ultimate reality. Dialectical dualism ordinarily implies a cyclical or eternally repetitive view of history. Eschatological dualism, a dualism concerned with the ultimate destiny of humanity and the world, how things will be in the last time, on the other hand, conceives of the final resolution of the present dualistic state of things, in which evil will be eliminated at the end of a linear history, constituted of a series of unrepeatable events instead of a cyclical, repetitive one. The ancient Iranian religions, Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, and Gnosticism, a religio-philosophical movement influential in the Hellenistic world, provide examples of eschatological dualism, a type of thought such as Platonism that insists on a profound harmony in the cosmos is thus more radically dualistic because of its irreducibly dialectical character than Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, with their emphasis on the cosmic struggle between two antithetical principles, good and evil. Midway between these extremes is Gnostic dualism, which has an ontology or theory of being of an Orphic Platonic type. See below among ancient civilizations and peoples, but which also affirm the final disappearance and annihilation of evil with the eventual destruction of the material world, and thus comprises both dialectical and eschatological dualism. In philosophy, dualism is often identified with the doctrine of transcendence, that there is a separate realm of or being above and beyond the world, as opposed to monism, which holds that the ultimate principle is inside the world, immanent in the disciplines concerned with the study of religions. However, religious dualism refers not to the distinction or separation of God and the world, but to the doctrine of two basic principles, a doctrine that, moreover, may easily be compatible with a form of monism, Orphism, or the Advaita school of Vedanta, that makes the opposition between the one and the many absolute and sees in multiplicity merely a fragmentation or illusory obliteration of the one. Now, let me click back over to Wikipedia. Now, I click back over to Wikipedia. Now, we over here on moral dualism. Moral dualism is the belief of the great complemental conflict between the benevolent and the malevolent, like ditheism, bitheism. See below. Moral dualism does not imply the absence of monist or monotheistic principle. Moral dualism simply implies that there are two moral opposites at work, independent of any interpretation of what might be moral, and unlike ditheism, bitheism, independent of how these may be represented. For example, Mazdaism, Zoroastrianism is both dualistic and monotheistic, but not monist by definition, since in that philosophy God, the creator, is purely good, and the antithesis, which is also uncreated, is an absolute one. Mandaism is monotheistic and Gnostic, and in its cosmology, the world of light that is good is contrasted with the world of darkness or underworld that is evil. Zurvanism, Zurvanite Zoroastrianism, and Manichaeism are representative of dualistic and monist philosophy, since each has a supreme and transcendental first principle from which the two equal but opposite entities then emanate. This is also true for the suppressed Christian Gnostic religions such as Bogomilism, Catharism, and so on. More complex forms of monist dualism also exist. For instance, in Hermetism, where announced thought that is described to have created man brings forth both good and evil, depending on interpretation whether it receives prompting from the God or from the demon. Duality with pluralism is considered a logical fallacy. Now, the history. Moral dualism began as a theological belief. Dualism was first seen implicitly in Egyptian religious belief by the contrast of the gods Set, disorder, death, and Osiris, order and life. The first explicit conception of dualism came from the ancient Persian religion of Zoroastrianism around the mid-5th century BC. Zoroastrianism is a monotheistic religion that believes that Ahura Mazda is the eternal creator of all good things. Any violation of Ahura Mazda's order arises from Druj, which is everything uncreated. From this comes a significant choice for humans to make. Either they fully participate in human life for Ahura Mazda, or they do not, and give Druj power. Personal dualism. is even more distinct in the beliefs of later religions. The religious dualism of Christianity between good and evil is not a perfect dualism, as God, good, will inevitably destroy Satan, evil. Early Christian dualism is largely based on Platonic dualism. See, Neoplatonism and Christianity. There is also a personal dualism in Christianity with a soul-body distinction based on the idea of an immaterial Christian soul. All right. Duotheism, bitheism, and ditheism. When used with regards to multiple gods, dualism may refer to duotheism, bitheism, or ditheism. Although ditheism and bitheism imply moral dualism, they are not equivalent. Ditheism and bitheism implies at least two gods, while moral dualism does not necessarily imply theism at all. Both bitheism and ditheism imply belief in two equally powerful gods with complementary or autonomous properties. However, while bitheism implies harmony, ditheism implies rivalry and opposition, such as between good and evil, bright and dark, or summer and winter. For example, a ditheistic system would be one in which one God is creative, the other is destructive. Theodicy. In the original concept of Zoroastrianism, for example, Ahura Mazda was the spirit of ultimate good, while Ahriman Manu was the spirit of ultimate evil. In a bitheistic system, by contrast, where the two deities are not in conflict or opposition, one could be male and the other female. Duotheism, one well-known example of a bitheistic or duotheistic theology based on gender polarity, is found in the neo-pagan religion of Wicca. In Wicca, dualism is represented in the belief of a god and a goddess as a dual partnership in ruling the universe. This is centered on the worship of a divine couple, the moon goddess and the horn god, who are regarded as lovers. However, there is also a ditheistic theme within traditional Wicca, as the horn god has dual aspects of bright and dark, related to day, night, summer, winter, expressed as the oak king and the holy king, who in Wiccan myth and ritual are said to engage in battle twice a year for the hand of the goddess, resulting in the change in seasons. Within Wicca, bright and dark do not correspond to notions of good and evil, but are aspects of the natural world, much like yin and yang in Taoism. Now, radical and mitigated dualism. Radical dualism or absolute dualism, which posits two co-equal divine forces. Manichaeism conceives of two previously coexistent realms of light and darkness, which become embroiled in conflict, owing to the chaotic actions of the latter. Subsequently, certain elements of the light became entrapped within darkness. The purpose of material creation is to enact the slow process of extraction of these individual elements, at the end of which the kingdom of light will prevail over darkness. Manichaeism likely inherits this dualistic mythology from Zoroastrianism, in which the eternal spirit of Ahura Mazda is opposed by his antithesis, Ahriman Manu. The two are engaged in a cosmic struggle, the conclusion of which will likewise see Ahura Mazda triumphant. The hem of the pearl included the belief that the material world corresponds to some sort of malevolent intoxication brought about by the two powers of darkness to keep elements of the light trapped inside it in a state of drunken distraction. Mitigated dualism is where one or two is in some way inferior to the other. Such classical Gnostic movements as the Sethians conceived of the material world as being created by a lesser divinity than the true God that was the object of their devotion. The spiritual world is conceived of as being radically different from the material world, coextensive with the true God and the true home of certain enlightened members of humanity. Thus, these systems were expressive of a feeling of acute alienation within the world, and their resultant aim was to allow the soul to escape the constraints presented by the physical realm. However, bitheistic and ditheistic principles are not always so easily contrastable. For instance, in a system where one God is the representative of summer and drought and the other of winter and rain, fertility, the mythology of Persephone, Martianism, and early Christian sect held that the Old and New Testament were the work of two opposing gods. Both were first principles, but of different religions. Now, all right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to continue on. Then I'm going to get over to the botanical. But we on theistic dualism. Now, we just read moral theism. So we had all this duotheism and bitheism and ditheism. Now we on theistic dualism. Theistic dualism. Theistic dualism. In theology, dualism can refer to the relationship between God and creation or God and the universe. This form of dualism is a belief shared in certain traditions of Christianity and Hinduism. Zoroastrianism or Mazda Yasna is one of the world's oldest continued practice religion based on the teachings of the Iranian-speaking prophet Zoroaster. It has a dualistic cosmology of good and evil, and an eschatology which predicts the ultimate conquest of evil by good. Zoroastrianism exalts an uncreated and benevolent deity of wisdom known as Ahura Mazda, wise Lord, as its supreme being. Manichaeism was a major religion founded in the 3rd century AD by the Parthian prophet Mani, 274 AD, in the Sasanian Empire. Manichaeism taught an elaborate dualistic cosmology describing the struggle between a good spiritual world of light and an evil material world of darkness. Through an ongoing process that takes place in human history, light is gradually removed from the world of matter and returned to the world of light whence it came. Its beliefs were based on local Mesopotamian religious movements and Gnosticism. In Christianity, the dualism between God and creation has existed as a central belief in multiple historical sects and traditions of Christianity, include Martianism, Catharism, Polytheism, and other forms of Gnostic Christianity. Christian dualism refers to a belief that God and creation are distinct but interrelated through an individual bond. However, Gnosticism is a diverse, syncretistic religious movement consisting of various belief systems generally uniting the belief in the distinction between a supreme, transcendent God and a blind, evil demiurge responsible for creating the material universe. Thereby trapping the divine spark within matter. Gnosticism is not limited to Christianity and also incorporates beliefs from other Abrahamic traditions, such as early Jewish sects. In sects like the Cathars and the Paulicians, this is a dualism between the material world, created by an evil God, and a moral God. Historians divide Christian dualism into absolute dualism, which held that the good and evil gods were equally powerful, and mitigated dualism, which held that material evil was subordinate to the spiritual good. The belief by Christian theologians who adhere to a libertarian or compatibilist view of free will, that free will separates humankind from God, has also been characterized as a form of dualism. The theologian Leroy Stevens Rorner compares the dualism of Christianity with the dualism that exists in Zoroastrian and the Samkhya tradition of Hinduism. The theological use of the word dualism dates back to 1700 in the book that describes the dualism between good and evil. The tolerance of dualism ranges widely among the different Christian traditions. As a monotheistic religion, the conflict between dualism and monism has existed in Christianity since its inception. The 1912 Catholic Encyclopedia described that in the Catholic Church, the dualistic hypothesis of an eternal world existing side by side with God was, of course, rejected by the 13th century, but mind-body dualism was not. The problem of evil is difficult to reconcile with absolute monism and has prompted some Christian sects to veer towards dualism. In Gnostic forms of Christianity were more dualistic, and some Gnostic traditions posited that the devil was separable from God as an independent deity. The Christian dualists of the Byzantine Empire, the Paulicians, were seen as Manichaean heretics by Byzantine theologians. This tradition of Christian dualism, founded by Constantine Sylvanus, argued that the universe was created through evil and separate from a moral God. Now you have the Cathars. A Christian sect in southern France believed that there was a dualism between two gods, one representing good and the other representing evil. Whether or not the Cathari possessed direct historical influence from ancient Gnosticism is a matter of dispute, as the basic conceptions of Gnostic cosmology are to be found in Cathar beliefs, most distinctly in their notion of a lesser creator God. Though unlike the 2nd century Gnostics, they did not apparently place any special relevance upon knowledge, gnosis, as an effective salvific force. In any case, the Roman Catholic Church denounced the Cathars as heretics and sought to crush the movement in the 13th century. The Albigensian Crusade was initiated by Pope Innocent III in 1208 to remove the Cathars from Languedoc in France, where they were known as Albigensians. The Inquisition, which began in 1233 under Pope Gregory IX, also targeted the Cathars. In Hinduism, the Dvaita Vedanta school of Indian philosophy espoused a dualism between God and the universe by theorizing the existence of two separate realities. The first and the more important reality is that of Shiva or Shakti, or Vishnu or Brahman. Shiva or Shakti or Vishnu is the supreme self, God, the absolute truth of the universe, the independent reality. The second reality is that of dependent but equally real universe that exists with its own separate essence. Everything that is composed of the second reality, such as individual soul, jiva, matter, etc., exists with their own separate reality. The distinguishing factor of this philosophy, as opposed to Avita Vendetta, monistic conclusion of Vedas, is that God takes on a personal role and is seen as a real, eternal entity that governs and controls the universe. Because the existence of individuals is grounded in the divine, they are depicted as reflections, images, or even shadows of the divine, but never in any way identical with the divine. Salvation, therefore, is described as the realization that all finite reality is essentially dependent on the Supreme. Now you have ontological dualism. Alternatively, dualism can mean the tendency of humans to perceive and understand the world as being divided into two overarching categories. In this sense, it is dualism when one perceives a tree as a thing separate from everything surrounding it. This form of ontological dualism exists in Taoism and Confucianism, and the foundational theory within traditional Chinese medicine, beliefs that divide the universe into the complementary oppositions of yin and yang. In traditions such as classical Hinduism, Samkhya Yoga, Vaishikika, and the later Vedanta schools, which accepted the theory of gunas, Chinese Pure Land, and Zen Buddhism or Islamic Sufism, a key to enlightenment is transcending this sort of dualistic thinking without merely substituting dualism with monism or pluralism. Now then you have Chinese philosophy. What time is it? All right. Because I want to get over to the Encyclopedia Britannica. All right, you got Chinese philosophy up under there, and then other religions like Samoyed peoples, the comparative studies of Keats and neighboring peoples, the Chukchi and the Fujians. All right. All right, I'm gonna click over here to all right. So like I said, that's on ontological dualism. But I want to click over here to this Encyclopedia Britannica. So I clicked over here to Encyclopedia Britannica. Historical varieties of religious dualism. Among ancient civilizations and people, dualism is a phenomenon of major importance in the religions of the ancient world. Those of the Middle East would be considered here. Egypt and Mesopotamia. While there was generally no explicit dualism in ancient Egyptian religion, there was an implicit dualism in the contrast between the god Seth and the god Osiris. Seth, a violent, aggressive, foreign, sterile god connected with disorder and desert, the desert and loneliness, was opposed to Osiris, the god of fertility and life, active in the waters of the Nile. Seth also possessed some typically dualistic marks of a mythological character. His action, as well as his personality itself, was ambivalent, and as a typical trickster, he was also capable at times of constructive action in the cosmos. The myths of Osiris and Seth may be compared in various ways with those recently discovered among the Dogon people of the Western Sudan, which contrast Nomo, a fertile and happily mated primordial being pictured in fish form, with Urugu, pale fox, and an unhappy sterile character who lives in the wilderness without a mate. Urugu is considered to be the element that makes the universe complete. the same role assigned to Seth in the Egyptian myth. Dualism, broadly speaking, was also present in ancient Mesopotamian religion and myths pertaining to the origins of the gods and of the cosmos, the opposition between the primordial deities, Apsu, the abyss, and Temek, the sea, and the new ones, particularly Marduk, the demiurge or creator, displayed some dualistic aspects, though the earlier deities had established the basic reality of the universe in ontological core. Because of their chaotic and selfish nature, they resisted their own offspring, who were later to create the now existing definite order of the cosmos. A dualism of the ontological basic reality or being versus the cosmological, the form or order of the material universe, is thus implicitly affirmed. Greece and the Hellenistic world. Now, Greece and the Hellenistic world. Let me see what time it is. Man, that's a lot. I ain't gonna have time to go through all this, but what I'm gonna say is this: when it's talking about ancient historical variety of religious dualism among ancient civilizations and peoples, I just read some of the, like Egypt and Mesopotamia, and basically that's what they're talking about in Greece and the Hellenistic world. Analogous dualistic concept may be found in the early Greek theogony of Hesiod in his myths of the gods Uranus, Cronus, and Zeus, and the conflict between primordial and later gods. It was in the latter classical Greek world, however, that dualism was most evident. Many of the pre-Socratic philosophers, 6th and 5th century BCE, were dualistic in various ways, and the teachers of Parmenides, for example, noted for reducing the world to a static one. A classical instance of monism, there is still a radical opposition between the realms of being and opinion, between ultimate reality and the world of human sense experience. On the other hand, in the doctrines of Heraclitus, noted for reducing the world to fiery change, the conflict of opposites, hot, cold, day, night, beginning, end, the way up, the way down, called for Heraclitus' Polemos war, was exalted to become a metaphysical principle. Though these opposites are piecemeal dyads, their effect taken together is as a whole dualistic. The dualism of Empedocles, simultaneously a religious teacher and a natural philosopher, is especially striking, for he viewed the primordial spirit of the universe as undergoing cycles alternately under the dominance of the antithetical principles of love and discord, which periodically break and then reconstruct it. In this context, there exists daimonies, souls, divine beings that have fallen from a superior world into this world and exist clothed in the foreign robe of the flesh. These souls are therefore subject to transmigration through a series of vegetable, animal, and human bodies, owing to a primitive accident for which credit was given to the furious discord. Now, and then the same antithetical principle ought to be found in Orphism, a Greek mystical school, which constituted an independent development within Greek religion and philosophy beginning in the 6th century BCE. It was part of a mysteriosophic trend that sought to attain the wisdom of secret mystics and cultic doctrines. Orphism is characterized by its somosema or body tomb concept, which saw the body as a prison or tomb in which the soul, the divine element akin to the gods, is incarcerated. In addition to this psychophysical dualism of soul and body, the Orphic idea that everything comes from the one and returns to the one demonstrates a typical dialectical dualism in which an implicit monism is involved, developing on an analogous level. Pythagorean numerical and mystical speculation arise from the 6th century BCE Greek philosopher and religious teacher Pythagoras. Also stressed the dualistic opposition of monad dyad 1, 2, and of other dialectical pairs of opposition. Now, many of these dualistic ideas, especially the Orphic and Pythagorean ones, are also found in the writings of Greek philosopher Plato, such as the Timaeus, Phaedo, Gorgias, and Critolus. In these writings, the divine part of the human soul that is directly infused by the divinity and immortal part, passionate and vegetative, are defined and considered. The mortal part is assigned to humanity by inferior divinities, charged to do so by the supreme divinity. And the appetitive passions involved, if followed, are held to be responsible for the punishment that the soul will suffer during various periods of habitation in the other world and reincarnations in this one. Thus, God remains free of blame for human destiny. The mortal or spoiled part of humanity is further attributed in Plato's laws to the titanic nature within its makeup, an element of violence and impiety inherited from the primordial rebellious titans, sons of the earth. Now, then you got Neoplatonism, then you have Gnosticism, Zoroastrianism, eschatological. Then over in Iran, you have the Indo-Iranian period, second millennium BCE. There was already tendencies toward dualistic thought, especially in myths relating to monstrous and demonic beings who steer the movement of the waters and thus make cosmic life impossible. In later archaic Indian speculation, there was also a tendency to oppose devas, gods, to asuras, demons. Iranian dualism, however, expresses itself most characteristically in Zoroastrianism. In the Zoroastrian religions, text, the Gathas, there is no opposition between two spirits: the beneficent spirit, Spenta Mania, and the destructive spirit, Angra Mania, or Ahriman. These two spirits are different, irreducible principles. At the beginning, they have chosen life and non-life respectively. Though the beneficent spirit is almost a hypostasis, the substance of the divinity, or Hura Mazda, or a Mazda. Alright, so that's in Iran. Then you have Zoroastrianism. Then you have among South and East Asian religions, like over in India, in China. Then you have among the religions of the West, dualism have appeared in Western religions, chiefly under the impact of Gnostic influence. Judaism, no real dualism is found in Judaism, except in the Gnostic and theosophic forms of Jewish mysticism known as Kabbalah. The presence of a vigorous and universal monotheism implies not only faith in a single creative God, but also faith in a God who is the uncontested master of history, and neither Satan nor Belial distracts from this absolute monotheism. Alright. Now, when it comes to Christianity, dualistic concepts appeared principally in its Gnostic development, but even in the 2nd century Judaizing sect of the Incretites, which was not really Gnostic, there were dualistic aspects that had modified some tendencies of later Judaism. These teachings were also particularly prominent in the writings of the supporters of Docetism, the doctrine that Christ, being divine, did not suffer and die. 2nd century, who held that matter is essentially evil and that the soul is a pre-existing substance. According to the Incretites, the pre-existing soul, once it gets inflamed by concupiscence drops into the carnal world. Since generation perpetuates the soul's state of decay in this bodily world, the Eucritides condemned all sexual relations. All right. Then you got to deal with the dualism of Marcion. The 2nd century semi-Gnostic Christian heretic was really a diatheism, a system positing two gods. Though common Gnostic presuppositions such as anti-Semitism and anti-cosmicism, the condemnation of the body and the material universe were also present in his thought. For Marcion, the God of the Hebrew Bible, Old Testament, is an inferior and harsh creator, demiurge, author of the world and of the humankind, who is nonetheless completely distinct from the supreme divinity, who manifests himself in Jesus and is a stranger to this world. Then you had this Saturninus of Antioch, the founder of a 2nd century Syrian Gnostic group that was commonly connected with the tradition of Simon Magus, reputed leader of an earlier Gnostic sect. The God of the Hebrew Bible is only one of the angels, the martial angel of the Judaic nation, although as with Marcion, he is distinct from the devil, who is in fact his opponent. According to Saturninus, a primordial accident caused a wave of pneuma spirit to land in the inferior darkness, where it is said to have remained present and now continues its existence in those who, characterized by the presence in them of this superior element, will later be conducted back to their heavenly origin by Jesus, a messenger coming from above. Now, and let me read this. You have the conceptions of a similar type are also found in Psalms or hymn of the Nessenes, is the Hebrew term for ophite. And then you got this basic concept was developed fully only in Manichaeism. Now pay attention to this. The Gnostic dualist view survived in late antiquity and into the Middle Age, both in the East among the Mandaeans, the Yazidi, and some extreme sects within the Shiite branch of Islam, and in the West among the Bogomils and Cathars. It is still present today in modern theosophy. And now, when you deal with the indigenous peoples in America, modern indigenous peoples, you have in North America, some of the people that live in Siberia and things of this nature. See, a lot of things that you read, you can also apply to modern time. Just like we just got through reading, talking about the Shiite Muslim, talking about some dualistic, some stuff with dualism. Today, talking about some Gnostic dualism. See, when you see this stuff, let me click back over here to this dualism and cosmology, because we got to get on this mind-body dualism. See, all right, we'll click over this mind-body dualism. All right, what time is it? Okay. All right, we over here on mind-body dualism on Wikipedia, but like I was saying, see, when you see things that be going on in today's world events, don't you even think for 1 minute that dualism is not involved, that Gnostic nonsense. Don't you even think that it's not. It is the reason. Don't you think it's not the reason. It is. Just like in Israel today. Who you keep hearing them talking about in Israel? That's who they talking about. The Shiites. That's who they talking about. You don't hear nothing about the Sunni Muslims. All they keep talking about, the Shiites. Over there in Iran, the Shiites. Over there in Saudi Arabian Peninsula, over down in Yemen, The Shiites. That's who they talking about, the Shiite Muslims. Some Gnostic dualism. They ain't said nothing about the Sunnis. See, I told you a long time ago. Now we over here on this mind-body dualism. We don't talk about this Russia and Ukraine. Mind-body dualism in the philosophy of mind-body dualism denotes either the view that mental phenomena are non-physical, or that the mind and body are distinct and separable. Thus, it encompasses a set of views about the relationship between mind and matter, as well as between subject and object, and is contrasted with other positions such as physicalism and inactivism in the mind-body problem. Aristotle shared Plato's view of multiple souls and further elaborated a hierarchical arrangement corresponding to the distinctive functions of plants, animals, and humans. A nutritive soul of growth and metabolism. That all three share a perceptive soul of pain, pleasure, and desire that only humans and other animals share, and the faculty of reason that is unique to humans only. In this view, a soul is the holomorphic form of a viable organism, wherein each level of the hierarchy formally supervenes upon the substance of the preceding level. For Aristotle, the first two souls based on the body perish when the living organism dies, whereas there remains an immortal and perpetual intellective part of mind. For Plato, however, the soul was not dependent on the physical body. He believed in metempsychosis, the migration of the soul to a new physical body. It has been considered a form of reductionism by some philosophers, since it enables the tendency to ignore very big groups of variables by its assumed association with the mind or the body, and not for its real value when it comes to explaining or predicting a studied phenomenon. Dualism is closely associated with the thought of Rene Descartes, 1641, who holds that the mind is a non-physical and therefore non-spatial substance. Descartes clearly identified the mind with consciousness and self-awareness and distinguished this from the physical brain as the seat of intelligence. Hence, he was the first documented Western philosopher to formulate the mind-body problem in the form in which it exists today. However, the theory of substance dualism has many advocates in contemporary philosophers such as Richard Swinburne, William Hasker, J.P. Moreland, E.J. Lowe, Charles Taylor Farrell, Sayed Jaber, Mosabari, and John Foster. Dualism is contrasted with various kinds of monism. Substance dualism is contrasted with all forms of materialism. But property dualism may be considered a form of emergent materialism or non-reductive physicalism in some sense. Types. Ontological dualism makes dual commitments about the nature of existence as it relates to mind and matter. It can be divided into three different types. Substance dualism asserts that mind and matter are fundamentally distinct kinds of foundations. Property dualism suggests that the ontological distinction lies in the difference between properties of mind and matter, as in emergentism. Predicate dualism claims the irreducibility of mental predicates to physical predicates. Now, substance or Cartesian dualism asserts that mind and matter are fundamentally distinct kinds of foundations. There are several types of substance dualism. Most substance dualists hold the view that the mind and body are capable of causally affecting each other, known as interactionism. Notable defenders of substance dualism include John Foster, Stuart and Richard Swinburne, and Charles Tagliaferro. Cartesian dualism, most famously defended by Rene Descartes, argues that there are two kinds of substance, mental and physical. Descartes states that the mental can exist outside of the body, and the body cannot think. Substance dualism is important historically for having given rise to much thought regarding the famous mind-body problem. It is compatible with theologies which claim that immortal souls occupy an independent realm of existence distinct from that of the physical world. Cartesians tend to equate the soul to the mind. The Copernican revolution and the scientific discoveries of the 17th century reinforced the belief that the scientific method was the unique way of knowledge. Bodies were seen as biological organisms to be studied in their constituent parts. Materialism, by means of anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, and physics. Reductionism. Mind-body dualism remained a biomedical paradigm and model for the following 3 centuries. Thomistic substance dualism has been defended by J.P. Moreland and Scott B. Ray. Thomistic substance dualism distinguishes itself from Cartesian substance dualism by denying that the body and soul are different substances. Instead, a person is composed of only one substance, the soul, whilst the body is considered an in-soul physical structure. Another type of substance dualism has been defended by William Hasker called emergent dualism. Now, property dualism. What time is it? All right. I'm going to have to cut it short. All right. We have property dualism. And the only thing we're talking about is the ontological dualism. So we had a lot of time on substance dualism. But the next thing was property dualism, non-reductive physicalism, which is property dualism, and epiphenomenalism, and predicate. Then you have predicate dualism. And so again, property dualism asserts that the ontological distinction lies in the difference between properties of mind and matter, and that consciousness may be ontologically irreducible to neurobiology and physics. It asserts that when matter is organized in an appropriate way, in the way that living human bodies are organized, mental properties emerge. Hence, it is a sub-branch of emergent materialism. And so what views property fall under the property dualism rubric is itself a matter of dispute. There are different versions of property dualism, some of which claim independent categories. All right. Now, non-reductive physicalism is a form of property dualism in which it is asserted that all mental states are causally reducible to physical states. All right. So that's non-reductive physicalism. And then epiphenomenalism is a form of property dualism in which it is asserted that one or more mental states do not have any influence on physical states, both ontologically and causally irreducible. It asserts that while material causes give rise to sensations, volitions, ideas, such mental phenomena themselves cause nothing further. They are causal dead ends. This can be contrasted to interactionism, on the other hand, which mental causes can produce material effects and vice versa. Then you have predicate dualism, is a view espoused by such non-reductive physicalists as Donald Davidson and Jerry Fodor, who maintain that while there is only one ontological category of substances and properties of substances, usually physical, the predicates that we use to describe mental events cannot be redescribed in terms of or reduced to physical predicates of natural languages. All right, so I wanted to make sure that before I end my video, we continue to make sure we have mind-body dualism. And so now let me click back over here right quick, because see, that was an important thing that we wanted to bring out about this Gnostic dualism, and that it just like it applies today, like the Mandaeans and Yazidi. But when you talk about Shiite Muslims, you got a big group of people called the Sunni Muslims. Then you got another group, the Shiite Muslims. And just for example, in Israel, when you talk about how the Palestinian people and Muslims in general, You got a groups of people that are Palestinian who are Sunni Muslims. For example, Yasser Arafat, a lot of people that, the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, a lot of people were Sunni Muslims. On the other hand, you got a lot of people that are in Palestine who are Shiite Muslims. And then across the border over in Lebanon, you got people who could possibly be Sunni Muslim and that are Lebanese. And then you got a lot of people that are Shiite Muslim. For example, Hezbollah. Just like over there is Iran, which is a predominantly Shiite Muslim nation. Then across the border, for many years, like Saddam Hussein, who fought against Iran, they were Sunni Muslim. Like Saudi Arabia, the people in Saudi Arabia, Sunni Muslim. A lot of times the people in Saudi Arabia, they support the Sunni Muslim in Israel. In opposition to Saudi Arabia, you have the Shiite Muslims in Palestine and in Iran and in Lebanon and down in the Saudi Arabian Peninsula in Yemen, the Houthis that you've been hearing about, the Shiite Muslims. See, that's what that Gnostic dualism in Shiite Muslims. And in some more countries, I think Afghanistan, the Taliban, Shiite Muslims, not Sunni Muslims, Shiite Muslims. See, that Gnostic dualism. See, this some serious stuff, man. This ain't no game. And just like when we talk about Russia. See, I knew a long time ago, when you see things happening and when you see all this violent activity, you shouldn't say that Gnosticism is not the reason. It is the reason. You should be saying that's the reason. That's the reason. Gnosticism. When you think about Vladimir Putin, president of Russia, you shouldn't say that he the bad guy. You should be looking over there in the Ukraine and you see Zelensky and his wife. You should be saying that Gnosticism is the reason why Zelensky and his wife tried to do what they tried to do. And see, Vladimir Putin resisted. And some of the people that in Ukraine that he was trying to help. Because see, you got to remember these American businesses that was over in Russia. See, don't say that it wasn't Gnosticism, wasn't the reason. That's what you say. That the reason why those American businesses tried to go over to Russia, because they tried to Gnosticism. Vladimir Putin was right to stand up for Russia. See, over there in the United Kingdom, when you see things people doing, trying to be violent and things like this, over in the Ukraine, and now you see the Ukraine is trying to cross over into Russia, you shouldn't say that Gnosticism is not the reason. What you should say is that the reason why they're doing that, see, coming from the United Kingdom, call themselves trying to help the Ukraine. They're not trying to help the Ukraine. They're still doing the same dumb stuff. Gnosticism. All over the world. Anytime you see some stuff going on, you shouldn't say that Gnosticism is not the reason. What you should be saying is Gnosticism is the reason. See, you need to inform yourself, and you need to, just like we reading Wikipedia and Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. See, when Wikipedia and Encyclopedia Britannica, and Encyclopedia Britannica is not the only one. You got the world. It's a lot of encyclopedias online. It's not the only one. But you got to remember when you got to edit the information. And Encyclopedia Britannica is a business. They got PhDs working for Encyclopedia Britannica. Because they wouldn't. How you gonna publish an encyclopedia if you don't have PhDs with all this information? And the same thing Wikipedia. You got to have PhDs. A bachelor's degree ain't good enough. Because this information is too important. this information coming from the PhD. So you got to have somebody with a PhD to interpret this information, somebody to be able to understand, comprehend the information. How you gonna edit the information if you can't? You got to have a PhD. How you gonna put this information online? You got to have a PhD. So like I said, don't say that narcissism not the reason. That's what you say. Narcissism is the reason. It's just like just like in Chicago, we talking about the lower stones and the disciple. See, I knew some, just like this peon, Larry Hoover, stupid, a little kid, 13 years old. You already got the lords, stones, and the disciples. Out of nowhere, you got some little peon kid looking out the window at the hustlers and the gangsters outside the window. But see, look who outside the window. Some more fools who didn't know what they was talking about. Because this little guy here, he don't know what he talking about. See, you tried to influence people with narcissism and didn't know what you was talking about. Same thing with out there in Los Angeles, California. Talking about the Crip gang and the Blood gang. See, all them stupid black / African Americans, they came from down south. They came from Alabama. They came from Louisiana. Came from Mississippi. Came from Texas and Oklahoma, Missouri. Came from right here in Tennessee. Trying to go behind other people's backs with narcissism. Like I've been saying all the time, all the people that came to this country from Asia, Southeast Asia, from Asian countries, from East Asia, and living in Los Angeles and living in California. Don't let that Blood gang, Crip gang influence you. Because that's what they talking about, narcissism. They ain't know what they was talking about. They just some stupid fools. Don't be influenced. Don't let nothing that they say, don't let, they talking about dualism, man. That's the reason why we talking about dualism. That's what we talking about, dualism. Dualism in cosmology. So you ain't right about nothing, man. You ain't nobody. Walking around with your chest stuck out, you ain't nobody. Talking about no damn dualism in cosmology. You ain't nobody. And all these different, that's right. Syncretism. And scroll back up, syncretism. Oh, there we go. Syncretism is the practice of combining different beliefs and various schools of thought. Syncretism involves the merging or assimilation of several originally discrete traditions, especially in the theology and mythology of religion, thus asserting an underlying unity and allowing for an inclusive approach to other faiths. While syncretism in art and culture is sometimes likened to eclecticism, in the realm of religion, it specifically denotes a more integrated merging of beliefs into a unified system, distinct from eclecticism, which implies a selective adoption of elements from different traditions without necessarily blending them into a new cohesive belief system. Syncretism also manifests in politics, just like the Democratic and Republican Party, known as syncretic politics. Now, religious syncretism is the blending of two or more religious belief system into a new system, or the incorporation into a religious tradition of beliefs from unrelated traditions. This can occur for many reasons. And the latter scenario happens quite commonly in areas where multiple religious traditions exist in proximity and function actively in a culture, or when a culture is conquered and the conquerors bring their religious beliefs with them but do not succeed in entirely eradicating the old beliefs or especially practices. Religions may have syncretic elements to their beliefs or history, but adherents of so labeled systems often frown on applying the label, especially adherents who belong to revealed religious systems such as the Abrahamic religions or any systems that exhibits an exclusivist approach. Such adherents sometimes see syncretism as a betrayal of their pure truth. By this reason, adding an incompatible belief corrupts the original religion, rendering it no longer true. Indeed, critics of a syncretistic trend may use the word or its variants as a disparaging epithet, as a charge implying that those who seek to incorporate a new view, belief, or practice into a religious system pervert the original faith. Non-exclusivist systems of belief, on the other hand, may feel quite free to incorporate other traditions into their own. So, like I said, all this stuff, this dualism stuff, and hey, you ain't cute, you ain't smart. And just like we just got to talking about syncretism, religious syncretism. For example, Judaism. For many years, the Jews have been fighting, have been conquered by the Persians, by the Greeks, and by the Romans. That's what they were talking about, Hellenism. And Hellenistic Judaism, when especially over in Egypt, and all the Hellenization that had taken place amongst the Jews. And then the Romans came along, like Rabbi Akiva. The Romans were doing things that was a revolt, the Bar Kokhba revolt. And before Rabbi Akiva was killed in that Bar Kokhba revolt, Rabbi Akiva made it clear he did not want Judaism to be influenced by Grecian philosophy. Did not want Judaism to be influenced by Gnosticism. And he didn't want that intellectualism to be an influence on Judaism. So, even today, all this Gnosticism, you can see people trying to do things, and gave you a few examples, and just see what they're doing, you know. And we come in here in the United States of America, we getting close to voting time, so I encourage people to vote. You know, whether you're Republican or Democrat, just vote, man. Me, I can't vote, but you know, I don't see this Donald Trump as number, like they say, hey, like the Democrat Party say, you got a criminal in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. That's a good ticket, man. I can know the future. So me, I support Kamala Harris and for president, and Tim Walz for the vice president, man. Because I can't see, I don't see anything that makes any sense, that's positive from this Trump Vance ticket. I really don't. So I'm gonna end. What time? I gotta give me something to eat, man. But I'm gonna get ready to end today's video. I feel pretty confident. We foundation on monotheism, And you know, just like when I go to work and go to the warehouse and everything, I know these idiots, these morons, keep coming over to the warehouse, you know, especially these white people. For some apparent reason, I think dualism must have made you think you were superior or something. I don't know what the hell, but you ain't nobody. And the rest of these morons, you know, keep coming over to the warehouse and everything. But you know, like I said before, see, time. Like I said before, man, it's all about time, man. Because you ain't talking about nothing. Talking about some dualism. Conservative vice lord in Chicago, man. You know, and you know, standing on Lord Stone disciple, man. You know what I'm saying? You ain't talking about nothing. And that little punk, that little peon, Larry, who was sending his stupid ass up in the jail, hoping one day he'll get out his ass an old man now. You know, you ain't nobody, man. You ain't nobody. You just a peon. You just a freaking stupid peon. Dualism, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, man, dualism and cosmology, man. Hey, don't. Now, look, you mess around and get released out on these streets, man, and I'm walking around. You better not even think for 1 minute I won't run into your ass. I promise you. You better not even think for 1 minute I won't run into your ass and try to kill you, man. I'm telling you, you ain't nobody. You ain't nobody. Should have never got away. You and the rest of them punks, you should have never got away, man. Should have never got away. And anybody walking their stupid ass around, they call themselves trying to support you and all that, man. Talking about some vice lords and stones and psych. Man, Father, I'm certain they in the same category as you. You ain't nothing and they ain't nothing either, man. You ain't nothing but some traitors, some cowards, and you some dumb ass bitches, man. You ain't nothing. You ain't nothing. Anybody that don't, you know what I'm saying? Information sitting right there in front of you, man. Ain't no damn way. I'm looking at my mom and dad, and man, no. And then before I leave, man, I'm talking about Sam Cooke last week. I feel sorry for that man, man. I feel sorry for that man. I feel sorry for his wife, Miss Barbara Campbell Cook. Feel sorry for all his children, man. Feel sorry for Sam Cooke and Miss Barbara Campbell Cook, their families, like the mother and father, sister and brothers and things. Because they dualism and cosmology, man, there ain't no reason for anything. There ain't no reason for nothing, man. There ain't no reason for you to act that way, man. There ain't no reason for you to do nothing like that. There ain't no reason for anything like that. You just be lying, talking about the material world, the physical, you know what I'm saying? There ain't no reason for you to be trying to make it sound like you know what I'm saying, trying to play like you crazy and all. You know what I'm saying? There ain't no reason for that, man. You just a lying bitch, man. You're gonna get what you deserve, though. It's all about time, man. That's all it is. It's all about time. But I'm gonna get ready to end today's video. And you know, let me just say this. It was on my mind because I was thinking about it earlier, you know what I'm saying? I be seeing these vlogs and you know what I'm saying, Chicago and everything. They be making these vlogs, right? And some gonna be talking about snitching and all this, right? Spend the whole video, the vlog on snitching. Snitching. You know what I'm saying? But you know, snitching on, you know what I'm saying? It's just like we talking about the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. You know, being black/African American, right? And what do it mean today? Call somebody a sellout. Look at the Democratic Party today. Look at the Republican Party today. What you gonna call? You know what it means? Call somebody a sellout. Don't mean nothing today. When the Republican Party had their convention, you seen all those African American, black/African American, in federal, state, and local elections. What do it mean today? Don't mean nothing. In the Democratic Party, in federal election, state election, local election. What you mean sellout? What you mean? Don't mean nothing, man. Don't mean nothing. Don't mean, you know what I'm saying? You just need to get someone to sit down, man. You know, we talking about snitching, right? Like you trying to teach me, you know? I don't think OG really know what the people in his group really be involved in. I can look at the local news today. Here in the city of Memphis, what you seeing? Carjacking. And then when they bring somebody, then a lot of these little guys, they get caught. And then it be some guy ain't even 18 years old, carjacking. Not even 18 years old yet. You know? Then you got all this smash and grab. Some got their face covered up and just going around breaking into these different businesses and stuff. Call themselves smash and grab. You know? You don't even hear about drugs no more. I remember back in the day, man. I remember, years ago, back in the 90s, 80s. I know back in the 80s, man. Then the 90s, it used to be some, local news and sometimes world, they had a big drug bust. And it was so many millions of dollars worth of drugs and there's so many pounds, so many, this amount of cocaine and marijuana or whatever, or heroin. Big drug bust. Man, you don't even hear nothing about no drug bust. Period. You don't hear nothing about no drug bust. You hear carjacking and smashing and grab, But I don't think OG I don't think he really know what activities, you know what I'm saying? Because today you got all this, you got these females doing the try-on haul and, trying on bikinis and everything. And then, you got these guys, you know what I'm saying? He don't know what his sister doing and you're talking about snitching and everything. And then, you got the bust it down challenge and then he found out that his mama, you know what I'm saying, she tried to cover her face up and everything in the dark. And then, guys standing down in the trench and everything, they're all in their feelings and everything. You know what I'm saying? Then come out and had to admit that his mama did the bust it down challenge. Man, he be snitching, man. He be snitching. He a rat. I ain't want nobody to know my mama was, doing the bust down challenge. But, that's the day, man. Influencer. My mama trying to be an influencer. My aunt, that's my aunt, man. And she trying to be an influencer and everything. That's my sister. That's my cousin. She trying to be an influencer and all this. And then, the guys, they sitting there looking at the internet and Instagram and all this. And then he ratted me out. He snitched. Then one of the girls, she talking about she did the busting down challenge. Didn't nobody know. She tried to hide the video, and then next thing you know, her brother went and told somebody. So now she calling her brother a snitch. He went and told it. He went and ratted me out. So now she called her brother a snitch. He a rat. Because didn't nobody know. But then, that you know what I'm saying? That was snitch, rat, That what it's gonna boil down to, because I don't think OG really know what kind of activity you're involved in for it to always be some kind of, because you got caught, you went to jail, and then you trying to claim that because the reason why I ended up in jail because you went and told it, somebody else went and told it or ratted you out or something, but that you ain't teaching me nothing like that. You ain't teaching me nothing, because I see these guys doing this video and everything, and next thing somebody gonna rat them out, you know what I'm saying? Come back and be like, man, your sister, man, was over there doing it, I ain't even know, man. They brought it to my attention. It brought to my attention, man, the guy that's doing the video, man, that's his mama, man. What? Yeah, that's his mama, she doing the bust down shot. I ain't even know, man. And then he gets all, in his feelings and everything, and then he's talking about somebody ratting, because then nobody, cause I didn't even know. They brought it to my attention. They're just like at the strip club. You talking about your sister, man. You talking about his aunt, man. Guys go to the strip club, make it rain and everything. Next thing you know, he talking about, man, did you know, man, that's the brother, you know what I'm saying? That's his cousin, man. What? No, man, I ain't know. And then when he find out that somebody else know about, now you talking about, man, you ain't had to go and tell no other, that, so and so working in the strip club, man. That's my cousin, man. Or you ain't had to tell that, yeah, that's my sister, man. We got the same mama, but we got different dads. But that's my sister. And yeah, she work at the strip club, man. No, I ain't even know, man. But you ain't had to go tell her. I ain't told nothing, man. I just told the guy, man, that was your sister, man. Like you ain't had to, you know what I'm saying? You ratted me out, man. But that's all it's gonna come to, man. That's all it's gonna come to. You can't teach me. You can't teach. You know what I'm saying? You can't not to be a snitch or not to be a rat or nothing. Cause I might get. You know what I'm saying? You just can't. Me and one of the sisters, we went down and bought a car at the car lot. She took the car over there to the Cook County jail to visit some other guy in the jail. On video. Out in the parking lot. I'm in another car. It looks just like that car. At the jewelry store. I get brought in. They trying to get me to talk. Then she down there. And then ratted me out. They gonna tell me, the detective's like, man, did you know that this girl went to the Cook County jail to visit some other guy? What? No, I ain't know that. Yeah, here it is. She on video. This your girl? Yeah, that's my girl. You ain't know? No, I ain't know. Did you know she was over there talking about it and trying to tell you? No, I ain't know that. No, I ain't know. No. Who she went down to the jail visit? Man, but trying to teach me not to be a snitch and not to be a rat and all this, you know. But look here. I'm finna get ready to end today's video. I thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Son of God, for all the blessings and guidance they provide all us with. And, you know, continue to pray, because there are all kind of wars being fought all over the world. You know what I'm saying? All over the world. For various reasons and everything. But let's just pray. Continue to pray for peace, man. Pray for peace. Because, you know, people shouldn't have to go through the things they go through. And just pray for peace. And I'm going to get ready to end today's video. And again, my name is Eric D. Johnson, also known as BrightShine. I live right here in the city of Memphis, in the county of Shelby, in the state of Tennessee. Thank all my family, my support for your continued encouragement. And you take care of yourself. I wish each and every one of you very best.